Hey, Composing Gloves here. I'm wearing a hat. Today we're going to be talking about syncopation. Say hello to the world of what a lot of people sort of wonder about when they get to drum fills, when they get to just doing interesting things. So syncopation, that the official definition was something along the lines of, so I guess this isn't the official, the summarization of it is basically you set up a regular rhythm, a regular pulse, something that the listener can expect, and then you deny them those expectations. You do something unexpected. So I have here, we were doing a post-production project, and I have a friend named Robert who was recording some dialogue for a character in the movie, and we got this glorious piece of audio.
Don't.
Because there's a part where he's like, don't touch it, don't touch it. And so we got this loop of him saying, no, basically, no, don't, no.
Don't.
The no, don't, no. And so I looked at that and I'm like, there is a track in that piece of audio. And so I made this track on it. I'm not going to play for you the whole thing, but I'm going to play for you just a little bit. I want you to pay attention to how I set up a meter and give you some expectations, because this is sort of an unusual deal. It's not necessarily conforming it to a meter. You see, I had to chop it up and do some things to it. But then I'll play a ways into it anyways, and just look for how when things happen and transitions happen, I throw your expectation of what's going to happen a little bit off.
Don't.
So you can see I am using rhythm is a very important part in this track. And I wasn't into the whole, this one was more about using that nose sample in really creative ways. So I'm just grabbing, risers and drum loops and junk and just using them in ways that I know work and work well. And then you can see getting creative with this here. No, I can't even say it. That part's so crazy. So anyways, we have here, right off the bat, I give you a sense of rhythm. We have this don't going on. And then we also have this drum loop that is reinforcing it. So you get this feeling of this the dun 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 dun. And there's this secondary pattern going boom, 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 giving you the meter in a really obvious way. So you're like being given instructions essentially on what to do. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like you just know exactly what to do. But then I have a little break, and it's really early. Normally people will let things ring out, or not ring out, but go on for like 8 bars before they do something. But I was like, screw that, man. So we went straight into because I needed to keep interest for this one, because I wanted people to listen through and at least reach this part of the composition. So we have this, I got them, and I took it, this no, and I said, hey, why don't I get rid of the sense of meter right there? So just by that not being there throws off your expectation, because this is something you definitely sort of expect to continue, and you definitely aren't sort of expecting it to happen right there, which means I'm breaking quite a few subjective rules, but I do a couple other things to make up for some of those rules that shifts your attention. So syncopation doesn't mean break the rules and defy them what they want and then leave the rules broken. Now you got to make up for it some way, otherwise they're going to say that sounds wrong, or this sounds bad, or those sorts of things. And depending on what you're trying to do, if that's what the reaction you're going for, then good job, you got it. But that's not the reaction I was going for. So I added this no. And so that is linked to sort of a different idea in the track. I'm able to break some of the rhythmic ideas by manipulating the sample, which was part of the theme there. And it's been time stretched to last a little bit longer than the other ones, and it's gone down in pitch. And so that seems to satisfy. And then I immediately bring in the rest of the rhythm and give you back that sense. So I deter what was originally an emphasized beat 1, and then beat 3 is usually pretty big, but then I totally don't do that. This sample comes in sort of a weird spot because it's been dragged out. And so it's like, where is the exact moment where this thing technically has a beat? And so some people will look at these waveforms and try and do that. I do that. It helps you place them, but you got to use your ear and your sense of just personal satisfaction about where the sample is if you want to know exactly where to place it. But anyways, that's a moment of syncopation. So you see, I also carry with don't know. And so then this comes in and I introduce a new element. So it's almost like a reward too. And this is adding another layer where I'm now emphasizing the beat even harder. So we see we're emphasizing beats 1 and beats. Now this one is a little strange because he comes in on the and of 3, but then you see it pulls up back to 1. So we're okay with that, so because it pulls in, but this isn't necessarily a syncopation. Maybe the first time you hear it, syncopation, sure, why not? But the second time you hear it, no longer really a syncopation because now it's been established as a repeating rhythm. It is something that is going on. So now the question is, do I defy you how these things work? And in this case, I don't. I leave it going, and then I bring in a new element, and I'll fade that out. This is a staple of, say, trance music, where they'll establish a repeating rhythm. There will be one. And instead of, playing with your expectations, most trance, of course, there are genres where they do sort of do that, but most will just, fade in and out repeating rhythms. It's about getting yourself into that rhythm. There's really interesting ideas behind the idea of just appreciating a rhythm and giving no sort of to give it the same emphasis over and over and over and over. It questions the importance of each beat, of what's going on. There's just interesting things that go down. So in this case, we are going for syncopation. So instead of bringing in this, I shift the rhythm. I shift the syncopation by adding in a new drum beat. And at first, it comes in as a syncopation, essentially. It comes in and it disturbs what you originally were hearing, but it's very quickly established as part of the song in the background. But that maintains interest. So once this gets established, though, I lose interest there. And now my mix is becoming, a little full because not only did I do that, but I also added in these guys. And I have this pad that's sort of doing some pretty wild sort of freelancing stuff. But now I've given my backbeat and my downbeat so much like thrust and umph and anchor that I can now really begin to add things that really begin to play with your sense of rhythm and time. And it'll be perceived as interesting and cool. And so because you have such a strong rhythm, I'm allowed to do sort of more crazy things. So occasionally I'll do fills in sort of expected areas. So I have a little fill right here with this, and then I have this little roll, and then I've also got down here in this pad thing, which is basically just a square pad thing. I am doing this, which by itself, it's... So you see, it's not like too crazy. It comes in on like beats that are pretty regular, like 3s are a pretty normal beats. 3, 4 is a little like, but there is a rhythm, but there's also a tonal change that goes on where it goes dun, dun, and then you're like, oh, something's got to resolve. And then the real syncopation happens when I don't resolve it right there. I resolve it over here. So you see how it's like, oh, what? And then, oh, there it was. So it's like, those are moments of syncopation that help push a song along as we keep going. Now, I do other things too. We can talk about a lot of other things. We're getting into much more advanced topics, but we have like panning here, for example. And I love using panning for moments like this. So if you listen to this, you'll see, what is this? The top loop. So I believe it pans this thing if we zoom in here. So it pans this guy. So it'll be like, it'll go, I believe down is your right channel and up is your left. Yeah, so it goes anyways. It starts over here, pulls down, and then it comes back. But instead, you perceive it sort of coming way over here, which it does. Oh, well, it does do that. My bad. For some reason, I thought it went straight to mono. But it goes down, and then it comes back to mono. So it's only over here for a second, but then it pulls back out to mono. And so that's another sort of rhythmic options you have. What are you going to do there? Because you have like layers. And some things are given to meter by your brain a lot easier because your brain, think about this, your brain is more easily equipped to interpret sound happening in rhythmic pulses. But what about sound moving in rhythmic pulses that's already happening in rhythmic pulses? So you begin to sort of introduce these new levels, and some listeners, they'll really appreciate this as an awesome jam session. Others will just be able to say, that sounded and grooved well, depending on how well you do this. So you can introduce different layers and different kinds of rhythm. It doesn't have to be just a sequenced thing as a sound playing specifically. It could be a back and forth motion. They create different stereo cues. So in some cases, you actually lose that. Instead, they'll perceive a sense of space But if you keep it, timed like that, you can give them a sense of rhythm in it as well. This gives you more of a sense of space. It opens it up. But those are just some options you have. So you could do panning like that and do some really interesting things. I do that occasionally with risers. It'll be like boom, 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 boom. And then before long, it's like happening so fast in both that we either get a modulation or I move it, and it sounds like it's coming out the center. And that's a really cool effect where we had this rhythm of speeding up. Not necessarily a syncopation, but I don't know. I felt like that was a good spot to talk about that. Anyways, these fills can all be considered types of syncopation, but now you've seen there's nothing as simple as just like a straight syncopation because they're a repeating fill, because they're a repeating one, they sort of establish themselves almost as a repeating pattern as well. So I need to do and pull out new tricks to make things stay interesting. One of the ways I do that is later on in this track, I pull out this vocoder. So anyways, we're not going to go into like the sound design or anything, but every single time one of these guys, this is essentially the rhythm. This is all rhythm. This guy just determines the note. And so whenever one of these overlaps with the note gets through and we hear it. That's basically what's going on. So you can see I have written out a thing that is very like da 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 da, and so they're very syncopated. Rhythms are happening in weird spots. It's a very new rhythm, and I establish it by I believe I just repeat it. There may be a couple things that I change on the second go around. Yeah, I change it up a little bit, and then I change it one more time, and then I go back to a rhythm that we're more familiar with, and also this is more of a structure and form type deal. Yeah, anyways, that's syncopation. It's just when you establish something and then you do something to change it up. And you can do, as you see, a huge number of things. Good mixing, and a level of interest. So there's like mixing and making things sound really clear, and then there's mixing and making things sound clear and giving them interest. And one of those interesting things that you can do is, as a mixer, you actually have a lot of options to mess with rhythm, to change the feel of a track, a lot more than you may be aware of. A lot of people will let you go through and do that. And they almost expect you to do that. They don't even know that this is an aspect of a mix they should even be aware of, a lot of bands. And so when you get the chance, this is what can make your thing go to the next level, really make things pop out. Now, I do a lot of like subtle panning, but you see here I take advantage of another left-right panning thing to give a bigger sense of space. I don't believe I take any advantage of any real rhythmic things going on here. This sort of a thing here, we expect the note to continue going on, but occasionally I toss these guys in to throw you off. Eventually you pick up on the pattern, but it's complicated enough that it just doesn't do that. And after this is happening so fast that I return to something that's a little more simple. So if we go over here. So that's quite a bit simpler. It's like, oh yeah, this is like, I know what to do here. And that's like the goal. How do you achieve that without being boring or bland or the same as everyone else all the time? And over here, something else to know is that these get longer and shorter based on the pitch. So we're altering the space and silence in the beat, which also contributes to it being something really interesting because it's not super complicated to listen to. People know, like, your brain can make sense of it. It's just like interesting. Like, it entertains you trying to figure it out. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.